Hey everybody, welcome to Gootz Disney Pod. I'm your host, Ray Gootz. We are back, and we are in the prequel era on our look back at all the Star Wars films here on the Gootz Disney Pod. I'm your host, Ray Gootz, and with me today is Drew Beekler. Drew, how are you, man?
Pretty good, man. How you doing? How you feeling?
I'm hanging in there. 41 years old now. I'm going to be dead soon. So,
happy birthday.
Thank you, brother. So before we get into the movie, today we're covering Phantom Menace. Before we get into Phantom Menace, let's get to know Drew a little bit. Drew, how long have you been doing stand-up?
About 4.5 years now. I believe. Yeah, it's been a weird, long time. I'm never sure whether to include COVID in that or not.
I include COVID, yeah.
Yeah, it's
were you doing Zoom shows and shit?
Yeah, we do. I do a show with Eric Bronstein. We still do it actually for every Monday, Chirpy Bird. So it's super fun. Judah Freelander's on it all the time, and it's pretty cool to see him work on that kind of stuff. So yeah, like I consider that somewhat a thing. So it's been about 4.5 years, something like that. Yeah.
What got you in this comedy?
I guess like a lot of people said throughout the years that I should try it or do it or whatever. And it's probably was I didn't believe it at first. And then I guess it's kept happening. And then I went to a New Year's resolution was to try something that kind of scared me. And I walked by, I was at a trivia night when an open mic was happening. I was a little drunk at the time. And I went in to go see if I could sign up for it. And they said they were full. And I assume it's because I was visibly drunk.
Okay.
and what happened is the entire week, the idea of going to that again never left my head. So I kind of just went up and did that. And it was great. I and just kind of never stopped doing it after that. That was the first time that I haven't done comedy like at least every week, like that was the first week that I just started going every week, never stopped.
And then you were doing stuff with Greenwich Comedy Club, right? You were doing the pizza show, right?
I was doing the pizza show with the Sheba Mation show there, and then I've started more recently. I'm hosting there at Broadway Comedy Club a lot, I have a new show that we have in the East Village called Big Wave Comedy. I run with Alex Aronson. We do that as a bi-weekly show on Tuesdays. It's been going pretty good. We have a cool room. The bar is really awesome. They have signature drinks. They have tequila that has jalapenos marinated in it, so it's like spicy. It's really
that
good.
Sounds awesome. That's worth it alone.
Dude, the chef and everyone there is super nice, and they have really good food. And it's just like they were talking about it. They gave us a free shot of it. And I was like, this is amazing. I love this so much.
That sounds incredible. Now you're into Star Wars, right? You've been into Star Wars, correct?
Oh yeah. I've been on the Star Wars train for a long time. And then like I guess my later years getting into Star Trek a little bit more, as in like just watching them more, because I've watched the Star Wars ones like a whole bunch. That like I think the first time I saw Star Wars was at a sleepover when I was like 6. And we everyone else fell asleep. I couldn't fall asleep, and I found a New Hope, or just Star Wars, if whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I don't want to get bombarded by this is not a New Hope, it's Star Wars, like that whole thing. But watched it and I loved it, and then found out there were more movies and watched that kind of thing over. I watched them a lot when I was younger, so that's kind of my intro to Star Wars, was that whole stuff.
Now, how old were you in 1999? If you don't let me ask it.
1999. Let's see. So I'm 34 now. So it would be 2000. I would have been like, that was 20 some years ago. So probably like 8 or 9.
Okay. So
I don't know if the math counts.
Okay. So you when you got into Star Wars as a kid, was the prequels already a thing? Were they already around?
No, I saw Star Wars before the prequels came out, which is why I was so excited the prequels were coming out, because I watched them and I remember my mom was telling me that they were always like, they were these big things and people lined up and everything. And she was really excited that I was into it because she was also into it. And I was excited because I was like, oh, this is like my premiere. Like, this is my, you almost take ownership of that movie a little bit. And I think that's why for a while I thought it was a really good movie. Like
Menace.
When I saw it, I think I saw it 6 or 7 times the first like week or 2 weeks that it was out.
Wow.
Because I was like, this is the greatest movie ever. Because I think I was just so excited that there was another one, and that I was part of that, right? You're part of that. You get we got to hang out outside the theater and stuff like that. I think that was one of the first times, and I guess I don't know when Harry Potter came out. I think it was a little later.
That was 2 years later.
2 years later. So yeah, that was the first one that we hung out, and then Harry Potter became that too. Is we started hanging out, going to books, like the book things,
the book premieres.
Like yeah,
the book
and
releases.
then also
I guess you can premiere books.
Yeah, they were fun.
Yeah. So how do you feel about Phantom Menace now?
It's not I literally just watched it last night and this morning, because I fell asleep midway through last night because it was kind of late, and then I woke up this morning and watched the rest of it. It's a movie that I think is the reason why there's a lot of I think the fact that we know a lot about it doesn't really help the movie. It's not a good movie. I think it's not a good movie because we see everything that's happening before it's happening, right? We know Palpatine
is the Emperor.
Is the Emperor
already. We know
already.
Anakin's gonna turn bad. Yeah.
We already know he's down. It's kind of like, there's no mystery to it. Like, we're not like, I think the movie would be better if we didn't start off with Anakin coming into the play, and I think it was just like maybe the Siths were coming in and stuff, and maybe the Emperor wasn't in it at all. I think if it was just kind of Darth Maul coming in, we didn't hear the Emperor. And also, I love that this movie is just like, hey, do you guys like Congress? Do you want to know about the Senate? Like, that's super fun. And they focused on. I like that they tried to do something different, because even the new movies, right? Like it's always a big ball.
It's basically the Empire is back. The new movies. Yeah.
It's like oh, we got a bigger ball. that we swear can't be blown up at all. Like we swear, but like they at least tried to be like, oh, this is a different kind of power that we're showing. We're slowly taking over things in a way that doesn't seem evil until it is evil, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think. I feel like that's where the movie went weird. And I think those are the two biggest problems with the movie. Because like there are good moments in the movie. Like obviously the best lightsaber fight duel we've ever seen is in Phantom Menace.
In Tatooine or Naboo? Which one?
Naboo. Like the ending Naboo, like that whole fight, I think is one of the greatest choreographed ones that we've seen. And obviously didn't have like the cool like obviously the Empire's like silhouetted on the Cloud City fight is cool and it's iconic because it has a really good look to it, but it's not a great sword fight. It's really just two guys kind of standing there because Darth Vader can barely move his arms above his shoulders, right? Like he's kind of like he gets caught like here. He's like I can do this. Like that's kind of it. So I think we had the best lightsaber fight we've ever seen in that, even because like the one on like even Revenge of the Sith, that was supposed to be like the Anakin Obi-Wan fight. It was supposed to be like the most crazy fight of all time, right? It's like, but it's like kind of not, it's kind of goofy, I think, more than anything.
I like the Anakin Obi-Wan fight in Revenge.
I do too, but I think it's a little goofy compared to this one. This one was like serious. That's also a thing in this movie is that I think all the fight scenes they introduced a lot of humor for some reason, especially with the Gungan fight with like Jar Jar, where we just watch him stumble around and kill a lot of droids by mistake.
Well, I mean, there was humor in the other Star Wars movies, but this was not good humor. This was just like really out of touch. You can tell George Lucas was living in a bubble. Like,
oh yeah, for sure. Everyone's just saying yes to it. Essentially, Jar Jar Binks is like if Kramer was in Star Wars. Like that's pretty much what his thing is, right? Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, keep giving you the good points, and I'll tell you some of my thoughts. But you said the lightsaber battle was good. What else did you enjoy about it?
I enjoy showing the mother son thing with Anakin. I like that a lot because I like that's a little clue of like why he might become evil kind of thing in the beginning. I like that foreshadowing kind of thing. Let's see. I liked Qui-Gon. I thought Qui-Gon was really cool.
Qui-Gon's cool.
Yeah, he's cool. I like that we introduced to the bigger world other than Tatooine. It sucks that every movie they just end up on Tatooine. Like, do you think that the Republic would take over Tatooine at this point?
I mean, I'm really surprised that they didn't even attempt in the new movies to go back to Naboo or go to like some places in the prequels that Luke and Leia weren't at. Like, why not have Luke and Han on Naboo? That would have been very interesting to see, and I think that would have people would have gotten really excited about that. Why is Luke on Naboo? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think they stay away from that because I think they were just trying to be like, forget the prequels because everyone collectively hates them. Yeah, because I think they it was pretty obvious throughout the whole series, the new ones at least, that I feel like they were just like, these need to be at least okay, that people are okay with us making all of these other Star Wars movies that we want to make. Yeah, this has to be at least okay.
Well, I think with the prequels, George Lucas is trying to. He's not trying to. He's very clearly not trying to get your nostalgia going. He's very clearly this is a completely different world than where New Hope was. This is a completely different set of circumstances. I'm not here to pull your heartstrings. I'm here to basically tell you chapter one of my story, and it's an alien. Because there's a lot of things that are very alien. Now they're kind of like old hat but when you first see this movie in theaters, you're like, but how the fuck do we go from these robots to stormtroopers? And it's just this. None of this is adding up yet, and now it does because they added so.
Well, it's also like they show that why the droids aren't ideal because if you take out the one thing that controls them all, it's over kind of thing. And, and that's why maybe stormtroopers are better because they can kind of think on their own and they can operate independently, so it's not like a hive mind situation.
Yeah, no, definitely. And the clones they got, they also kind of explained in Force Awakens why they don't want to do clones anymore because deteriorate. My favorite scene in this, and then we'll get into why this is not a good movie. My favorite scene in this is the pod race. I'll give Lucas credit. When Lucas was in charge of these movies, there was always an action scene that kind of felt like he was trying to push filmmaking. He was trying to like, he was really trying to like, how can I make this an event? How can I make, and I felt like the pod race was that.
Yeah.
And the new movies, they don't really have that. It's just like action, but not like,
It's just Ray running a lot. That's really what it
yeah,
is.
it's not like we're gonna build to a set piece of something you've never seen before.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so I love the pod race. I loved it when I first saw it. And even now I still like it. I just like the fact that there's no music for a while. And then it kicks in and the angles he's using. And
I think it might be a little long. I think that's my only critique really of the pod racing scene. I think it's a little long. Also, there's a point where like C-3PO, before he's like put together, is like, oh man, they have to go through this 3 times. Like, we don't know how races normally work. I think that's in the like it's there's that moment in it too. But like I agree, because like these movies, the prequels were almost exclusively for George Lucas to show off how much CG they can put into something and how much they can get away with CG. Like obviously, like the Jar Jar Binks character, if you watch now, he's like, he looks, I like, again, like I watched it today. He is just like, it's not great. Like he's
not good.
Very obviously CG, but also like, that was back when they weren't doing that a lot. And like all these massive set pieces look like the environment work is great. Like the Naboo like world is amazing. It like looks
Naboo
really
is
good.
amazing.
Yeah.
The is it Coruscant? The city where that is incredible. That is what a Star Wars city would look like.
Exactly. And it's like, and like you said, it's a place we've never been before. And then like in the new movies, they're there, like it gets blown up, right? Like it gets blown up to the
one of the most interesting planets. They just blow up. Yeah. So they can be on so they can be in the desert for
or like they can see these like crystal foxes.
Yeah. It's this is my thing. I like the idea that Palpatine takes over everything, not by force, but kind of by outwitting everyone,
Yeah.
I kind of like the fact that he uses the rules of democracy to achieve his goals. Because I feel like a lot of other filmmakers would have had him just blow up everybody until they gave him power.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
100%. And like, and the thing is, I will say that I enjoyed that they tried something different. I just think that it was, again, like the whole first part is this trade negotiation thing, and then they're like, we have to negotiate, we have to go to the Senate, and they're like, we're like, no one wants to cut. Like, I think there's ways of showing that in different ways than it was shown in the movie. I think there was
there are. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like all of that is good, but like there's just something missing. Like, this is what I would say. Like, George, if let's say 1977, this was the first movie that you put out. So Star Wars is this, right? It just starts off like this. Nobody knows anything. Do you think that this movie would have been the phenomenon that No, this is not a good first. This is supposed to be the first chapter. This is supposed to be like, because episode 4, which I love, but that even though it's the first chapter, there's this assumption that you know about a lot of stuff. But when we catch up, that's what kind of makes it work, is that like they're referencing all this past shit, and you're like, what are they talking about? All this
don't they kind of say that, like, didn't he say he wrote kind of all of them, like an outline of all of them, and then chose the middle ones because they were the most interesting?
I don't buy
like that. I don't know.
I don't buy that. I think he never really had the prequels written. I think he had a vague idea where he was going to go, because again, like, there's just, I don't know. It's just like, even like the little bit that Obi-Wan says to Luke doesn't match up in these movies until they get to the Clone Wars Part 2. And then they kind of matches up more about him being a great pilot and a good friend and all this shit. And it doesn't really match up. But my thing is, like, it's just not like, I just feel like if this was the first movie, I feel like this would have been like, you remember that cheesy 70s movie, The Phantom Menace? Oh, that was weird.
They talked about the Senate a lot. Like,
they talked about the Senate a lot. And like some people like, it was a misunderstood classic, but then most of us would have moved on, right? It
I
would have
think
been
so
like
too.
goofy, cheesy movie that never got a second part. It's about some
I
kid.
also think like the pod racing stuff and all that stuff just wouldn't be able to be done. I think at that point, like I think that's
I know
also,
it would have looked bad. Yeah,
yeah.
but what I'm saying
Because
is like even if he could find a way to get it done in 1977, it's not an interesting movie. It's not an interesting first chapter.
it's okay, and I think it's hard. I think it's hard for us to also say this because we know since we watched the other movies, we already know what the mystery of the movie is. Because the mystery is who's the Emperor, the Sith. Like that's the mystery, right, of the whole thing. But we already know all that those answers. So I think it's hard for us to say. I agree that I don't think it would be as phenomenal, the phenomenon that it is, because I think the first movie is also like in that time was just like in the 70s, like early 80s stuff was like, that was like, I feel like that fit in that, like what that needed at that point. Like, right. Like they needed, like his big thing was, he's like, I want a space opera that has all the movie angles and very cinematic, and like it was just never seen before. And that then like, but the thing is like you fall in love because you're following Luke, right? But you don't know who Darth Vader is really. He's just kind of a guy in a mask at that point. And that's why in Empire, it's so, what do you call it? Like it's that reveal was so big. It's because we're like, oh shit, they're all connected. That's fucking insane. Like that's a mind-blowing moment. Even though like now like no one has that moment because everyone knows who Darth Vader is from the womb, I think at this point. Like I think it's so engulfed in the culture of what we're doing now and everything like that.
I would argue that he should have made Palpatine one of the main characters, because you already know that Palpatine's going to succeed, and you already know that he's the guy behind all this. But if we're watching Palpatine, because they do it on, and again, I keep going to Clone Wars, which I think fixed a lot of the problems of these movies. They do it on Clone Wars, where we see him playing both sides, and we see him, they're not pretending on that card. Did you watch Clone Wars?
Yeah.
They're not pretending in the cartoon. Well, we don't know who the mysterious guy is. No, we know it's Palpatine.
Yeah.
So I think it would have been better if like we're seeing things from his perspective rather than a bunch of people who are being played by. They're basically, it's a really dark movie because the bad guy wins. Like this movie, like everything goes according to his plan. It's almost comical how everything just goes according to his plan.
Yeah. Like that's why I argue that I think this movie would be more interesting if we never saw Palpatine ever. Like, okay, all right. If that last line, because one of the last lines of the movie with Yoda, where he's talking about, well, not the one last line, but he's talking about how there's always two. There's an apprentice and a master. Yeah. There's always two. And I think that would be cool because I think as us knowing that the Emperor already happens, like he made the movie in a place where we know that the Emperor is this guy, right? Like we're all aware that that's what it is. And I think you going, oh, that would have made me more excited about Clone Wars if I heard like there's always two, and you're like, oh shit, the Emperor. That's what we're seeing. That's who we're getting next.
Yeah, you don't see him, and I know like we're watching Palpatine manipulate everyone to give him what he wants.
I think that could have been. Yeah, I think we could have seen that without ever seeing him. I think that could have been like there could have been like things of like, oh,
yeah, or like just done it all in like the second and third movie. Like don't do it in this movie. The other mistake I think was making Anakin that young and that innocent. I get what he's trying to say. Like even like the sweetest baby can become a monster, right? But I think you kind of have to have. I think Anakin should have been a lovable asshole, like from the start.
The amount of yippies that are in this movie, they're like every child is like yippee, like this, like I was thinking the same thing when I was watching it. Like I was like, you're just trying to make them so innocent because you want to build that contrast of like where Anakin, because like also in the next movie, like Anakin jumped from like what he's like 10 and he's like 17 and he's like 17 in the next movie.
Now he's almost like he's not even the same kid. I can't see where this little kid becomes that guy.
I think if he was a little older and like he kind of was more
sullen, like a 13-year-old, like kind of goth 13-year-old, like whatever.
Yeah, like he listens to My Chemical Romance. He's just like he's kind of like he's indifferent to his mom a little bit, but he's like kind of still loves her. Yeah, and like the thing is that would like because they play him as this like very like, I'm gonna help everybody, like guy. And it's like that's clearly not. He becomes extremely like selfish, right? As he gets older in the next couple movies, and a hint of that would have been kind of fun.
Yeah, and then like let's say this like he gets like this crush on like 18-year-old, and it's also more realistic if he's 12 or 13, and he's kind of mad. He's kind of like, "Hey, what's up, Padme?" And she's like, "You're just this weird kid. Like, leave me alone." So that like it almost like it ends kind of awkwardly between them because he does like this weird. And then when he comes back and he's like good looking now because he got out of his awkward phase, that would be more believable than Padme, because now it's like Padme's falling in love with like some little baby kid.
Oh yeah, like Padme comes off as a real pedophile in the next movies.
Yeah,
because also I'm unsure about how old Anakin's supposed to be, and you know you already because you and like even if that age difference between Padme and Anakin was like isn't actually as wide as we think it is, we all assume that she's way older than him, right? Like we all. She's like leading she's leading a whole planet, you know, she's talking to senates and stuff. Like that's like a 21-year-old person. And then like obviously in the first movie she doesn't really have a romantic connection to Anakin. She's always like kind of just taking care of him. And then he turns on that hard on for her, like later on, like in the next movies.
I still think this is my theory, and I don't want to get into Attack of the Clones, but I think Anakin's so powerful, he didn't know he was doing this. I think he, you know, like the droid, there's no droids. These are not the droids you're looking for. These aren't the droids you're looking for. I think he Jedi mind tricked her into being into him. Because there's a part where they're on the grass in Attack of the Clones, and he just gives this big love speech, and she says nothing and just kisses him. And after that, she's just with him.
Interesting.
I think he Jedi mind tricked her.
Interesting. That's a very I've never heard that before, and that's an interesting thing. It would also make that whole scene a lot more dark.
Because he's not smooth at all in the second movie, and then
he's just talking about how he hates sand.
Yeah, and then there's a couple of moments where he gives like these weird speeches that most women be like, well, that's nice, but I'm gonna call my lawyer. And she just goes for him, but I think subconsciously he's it's an audio podcast. I gotta say he's Jedi mind tricking her without even knowing it, because this is the guy who's like, you know, the savior of the Force. So I think sometimes he could be fucking people's minds and not even know it.
Yeah, interesting. I like that theory. I like the theory that he's so powerful that and especially because he's still a Padawan at that point, right? So he's in training, so he can't control everything that he has.
And then I think his love and obsession on her is so strong that I think it would, you know, he couldn't control. Like when you like somebody that much, you can't control how much you like them. But imagine if you could use the how much you like a girl, you could use that as a power. You know what I'm saying? And a power over the girl. And I think that's what's happening here.
Yeah, I enjoy it. We'll get back to Phantom Menace. But I very much am into that idea. I've never heard that before, and I like that idea.
Yeah, I forget if somebody from YouTube or a friend of mine said it, but when I rewatched Attack of the Clones, because I did this big rewatch before Rise of Skywalker, I was like, yeah, he's fucking with her mind. There's a point in the movie where she no longer has her own head.
Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. I have a question.
Yeah.
General Star Wars question. Why do protocol droids have to have midriff? Like they all have like that wire thing saying out. Like they're supposed to be like servants, right? And they're all like, "Let me show you my belly button." You know, like.
Well, here's the other thing.
Like
why
on spring break?
Why is this 7-year-old building an effeminate robot? Like, you would think like a 7-year-old would want a robot. Like, hey, everybody, it's me, C-3PO. Like, why is Anakin like? I want him dainty and wimpy.
I want him to sound British. Like what? Like maybe he doesn't know what a British accent is.
I know, it's like, why would Anakin create this fucking? That's the other thing too.
I was gonna say, I think there's too many like
coincidences
of like, oh, C-3PO, like because that also leads to the thing of like, oh, I don't remember owning a droid. Like the fact is, like Obi-Wan once see both of them and be like, oh, dudes, what's up? Like,
because he does hang her C3, and I thought like when this movie was over, like maybe he never sees C-3PO again. So you know, but then C-3PO is like waiting for him on Tatooine. They go off together. They have adventures. It's like C-3PO is part of his crew.
He also
How do you not
doesn't
remember
he?
C-3PO?
And he comes back. He comes back. Doesn't he meet him in Revenge of the Sith too?
He's part of the and also C-3PO. What is going on? Can't pick that right now. C-3PO fucking on Hoth. I'm not Hoth. A Cloud City in Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. There's I think I don't mind seeing R2D2 as the Naboo like
I can see R2D2 like there's probably like 1,000 R2D2 units like that around. So I could see like Darth Vader being like, well, my son probably just has an R2D2 unit. It's not mine.
It's probably not the one that I know. Like whatever. Yeah. I agree with that. It's like
I C-3PO would just be so like the moment he walked in and saw the C-3PO robot on Sky City, you'd be like, oh, C-3PO. Because here's the other thing. Darth Vader probably got all the information he needed out of C-3PO. Hey, I'm Anakin. Hey, remember?
Oh, well, he does get his doesn't he get his like he gets wiped at one point.
He does, but maybe Darth knows like can't. I'm sure Darth could undo that. I don't know. Like, I just feel like Darth could manipulate if he tells.
There's gotta be there's a
way for him to manipulate C-3PO, and the movie ends in like 4 seconds because he knows everything.
Yeah, or he just accesses the cloud and gets C-3PO's data that's stored up there. You know, like
maybe there's a backup. I guarantee there's a backup. And he just restores the backup. Master Anakin, well, I have to tell you that they're planning to blow up the Death Star. I don't know.
All I want to say, last time I'm gonna like try to bring up the newer movies. There's a moment, and no one talks about it, and it's bullshit. And everyone needs to talk about the fact that there's a point in I think it's a Skywalker. Yeah, I think it's Rise of Skywalker, right? Where C-3PO is wearing a hooded sweatshirt, and it's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious, and I just keep thinking about it. And I thought about it when I was in the movie. I'm just like, C-3PO's in a goddamn hoodie right now. This is amazing. I agree. That's also the problem with like prequels. A lot of the time, there's too many coincidences. Like the fact that everything about that character has to happen in this one span of time. Like things happen over different spans of time. It's why I like the new James Bond movies. Is they kind of like ramped up kind of his backstory and kind of showed why he was like not like trusting of everybody because it was slow because they had like 3 or 4 movies to do it in, and this one just like I felt like it was all in the first movie. They're like, hey, this is all the connections to the original movies. We'll move on now, kind of thing. And I don't know. I agree that it's not great.
There's a lot of coincidences. Just I would not have had him grow up on Tatooine. I mean, I don't know. I get that he wanted to be like father, like son, and the poster. I don't know if you remember. The poster was cool. The poster is Anakin walking in the desert. The shadow is Darth Vader.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
that's a great image. But I'll tell you the biggest problem with this movie. It's the biggest problem. A lot of things about this movie I can forgive, and I can get into. I can get swept up in this movie. I can still to this day. Here's the big problem, though. Jar Jar fucking Binks. The massive problem. Because every time there's a lot of dumb movies I can get caught up in and just enjoy. The Friday the 13th films, the some shittier Disney animated films. I can just get into them. Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2, whatever. But Jar Jar Binks is just a constant reminder of how dumb this fucking movie is. He's so the fact, and they cut to him so often, and they have him yell. He talks louder than all the other actors, and it's like it just ruins. It just makes you like a fucking idiot for ever liking any of these.
It's because that character is there only to show. Oh, he's the only reason he's there is to be like, here's the Gungan City, right?
Yeah,
and then he just sticks around because for comic relief throughout the whole movie, and it's like. They're like every character I think had the ability to have some comic relief about things. Like Chewie kind of is the comic relief for Han, right? Like, and they have that it's like witty back and forth, and even C-3PO
you
has
want
his
Chewie
moments.
on your side. He's a fucking fighter. He's a badass.
Yeah, but he's like he's sassy, you know, like he has that sass to him, and Han has his kind of sass, but also like our C-3PO has those moments, but they're at least tolerable.
Mhm.
Like I liked it, and I kept saying I won't bring up the movie. I liked in the movie when they first see Han and Leia see each other, and he walks up and he's like, "Oh, Han, what's going on?" Like he just interrupts this amazing moment.
That's the best way to introduce C-3PO ever.
Yeah, and it was great. And then like it's like, and the problem is, it's just that Jar Jar's just like he was a character that should have been in the first act and then never seen again.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, and it just doesn't make any sense that these Jedi, these ultra serious Jedis, are just, and they don't really. He'll say dumb shit, and Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor don't really acknowledge him. They don't really even look. They don't have a reaction. Like he'll just like I don't know. Fucking Qui-Gon will be like, "We need to head to the city to get the generators," and he'll be, and they don't even react or look at him, and they're not even like, "What the fuck is this guy? What are we doing with this asshole?"
Why do they bring him into Tatooine? Like, why do they bring him?
They just
first of all,
yeah, they do. They bring him into the city. Why is Obi-Wan staying behind? But this
he's an aquatic dwelling creature.
Yeah,
that is used to the jungles and underwater activity. And you're gonna bring him to a goddamn desert? Like, yeah. I guess like I don't like he seems to be just like, oh, I'm gonna take this, and he had to tell him like, hey, don't do that again. Like, stop stealing things. And you're like, why would you bring this guy who's obviously a doofus with you to be like, oh, we have to do something serious for our thing or whatever? Maybe it is like maybe the princess didn't like him. He's like, oh no, I can't have this guy around me. Like, get this creature that you brought with you for some reason away from me. That's my only explanation. Is the decoy princess was just like, I can't handle this fucking thing. Get it away from me.
I can't handle this. But like, and the other thing is like, so like the new. Are you watching Peacemaker?
No, I haven't watched it yet.
Okay. Well, they have a goofy guy vigilante, and I was a little worried because I'm like, it's just gonna be a goofy, useless guy that's just goofy and useless. But guess what? I'm not spoiling anything. When vigilante has to fight, he's capable. He's very capable.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that they're keeping this annoying, weird guy around.
Yeah.
So if Jar Jar just started whooping everyone's ass, I could kind of get it. But he just does nothing. He adds nothing, and he just ruins the movie. And I know this has been beaten over everyone's head for 23 years.
Yeah.
But it's just shocking. I've never seen a movie just insert something that ruins that it almost is like a fuck you to the audience.
Yeah, he's so over the top, and again, like you said, like the only time that you see him do anything is in that fight, and in all the fight things, it's him being a coward, and him just like accidentally doing something good. Like he's not like like I would love to have seen Jar Jar like break out some Gungan kung fu, like like that would have been like some crazy like frog kung fu stuff or whatever, but like he doesn't. He's just all around a bad character because he's only there to add a little bit of like lightheartedness to the movie, I think.
So I don't know where I heard this story, but this apparently, I don't know if Macaulay Culkin told this story or if Michael Jackson himself told this story, but apparently a year before the movie was made, George Lucas met with Michael Jackson and was talking about the prequels with him. And no, maybe it was like this Star Wars podcast. And he tells Michael Jackson, but the one thing I'm really excited about, and I think this is going to change cinema, is Jar Jar Binks. He is an incredible character and it's going to capture everyone's hearts. And he showed him like rough concept of it. And I think he asked him either to voice Jar Jar or do Jar Jar's motions. And I think Michael Jackson basically said, and I don't think he did it this brutal because I don't think Michael Jackson was this brutal unless you're a little kid. He was like, this is not that good. And I think George Lucas like ran away. Like, I think Michael Jackson was like, this needs that. And I think he thought Michael Jackson was going to be like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Like, we're going to change.
I think, like you said before, I think this is these films, especially the first one. He was in such a George Lucas, everyone sucking his dick like bubble. He
was in a bubble.
He was in a bubble where everyone was telling him, "Yeah, this is great, this is great, this is great," and no one stood up and was like, "Hey, this character that's dumb? We should like not have him in this.
Yeah, like this movie has problems, but if you just eliminate this guy, 90% like it's easy to digest problems. But he just constantly reminds you how dumb the movie is.
Yeah, it's like again, like if he wasn't like banished from the Gungan city, right? Like if he wasn't banished from them, and all that kind of stuff. And he just led them to the Gungan city, and that's where we kind of left him until we saw him maybe again later on when they meet up with the Gungans later to like fight the Trade Federation, right? Like that, I feel like that would be the amount of Jar Jar that would have been fine, right? Like we have him go, oh, Misa, go, let's take you to the city, oh, whatever, like. And like they save his life anyway. They save his life. That's fine. And that's why he comes back and like vouches for them to be like, these guys saved my life. We should help them out because we can trust them because they helped us.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And that would have made that like that. I think that suggestion right there that we just came up with would have fixed that entire whole problem.
Would have fixed
that whole problem would have fixed if that's what it was. If he was in it for the first, that way George Lucas got him in there. He got to be like, he could come back in other movies if he wanted to. Like it'd be fine, and I think people would be like, "Oh, Jar Jar's." I think it's one of those things. It's like it's when you see too much of a goofy character, like you could tell there's just too much of that one thing in the movie. Like if you have too much salt, it's like you're like, oh man, there's just too much salt. Like he's just too much salt on the meal that is this movie. Boom.
Well, the other problem with him is that inherently. The story of all three of these movies is a dark story. It's a story about evil winning, evil using democracy against, like it's based, the fascists using democracy to bring back fascism.
Yeah,
and it's about evil triumphing over good and love being crushed. And if you see have you ever rewatched the trailer for episode 1?
I have not.
Go back and rewatch it because that trailer is suggesting that this is going to be a dark journey starting with this. It's not going to be a fun frolic. And then he goes to the movie theater and you're thinking like, all right, we're about to see like a tragedy unfold, right? In 3 parts. And then this fucking goofy guy shows up. And it's almost like you fed me a bullshit because this is just a goofy, silly, stupid movie. It really, it's the start of what's going to happen with how Darth Vader's born, but there's not there's not a moment in this movie where I think this is why Anakin became Darth Vader. There's not a single moment. It's just him being a dumb fucking kid. And
I think the him being ripped away from his mom and them talking about how he's like missing his mom. I think that could be something. But then Jar Jar shows up and it's like, wait a minute. You fucking told me that this was going to be about like little kids, Yeah.
You fucking told me this would be about little kids. Oh, you fucking told me this was going to be something dark. Yeah. And this is going to be about Jedis and lightsaber battles.
That's why I think if like your point of like if Anakin was a little older, I think that would make a lot of difference. That would change this movie a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. Yippies. And also, can we just have Qui-Gon not constantly asked if you have transportation? Like that's literally he's like, do you have a transport? Do you have a transport? Like every 3 lines of his dialogue is transport, get a transport. Like do you have one? Like let's have a transport.
I do like Liam Neeson. I wish they had given him, I would love to see like a Disney Plus series about Qui-Gon. A year.
I assume they're gonna. I assume we're gonna get one of those eventually.
Well, he's getting older by the second, so I would love to see. I really think he's probably my favorite Jedi, only because he really has done. He's the only character that makes me believe that this is like real. Like everyone else just seems like they can't believe what they're doing. Yeah, he's so good. He's so committed to everything. I believe in Jake Lloyd. When Liam Neeson is talking about how great he can be. Like, I'm like, yes, you're right, he can be. Every other time, it's just like, they really think this fucking dipshit kid is going to change the world. You know what I mean? He's so good in this. He's the best. Ewan McGregor, was really rough. I think he gets a lot better in the next movie.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think he also because like again like he's what do you call it? He's also like the whole Tatooine thing. He's stuck on the ship. Like they don't let him be on the ship. Like he's not. I feel like he's not in as much as he could have been.
Yeah, he's not. And you're right. The lightsaber battles are great, and the designs. I'll say some of the designs. Like I remember when I saw first time I ever saw anything about this movie. I went to my doctor with my mom. This is in high school, and I went to Macy's. They had Barnes and Nobles. They had a giant display of all these new like the art of Episode 1, and I saw Queen Amidala and Darth Maul. And I was like, this is what Star Wars is about. The one thing I'll give George Lucas in these movies, and I won't give it to Disney because I don't think Disney has failed at this, is he makes they have these character designs and these costume designs, and they truly look alien. They truly look like something from another world. And and even as bad as this movie is, there are some moments and some designs that are just breathtaking. And they stay with you to this day. And one of them is Darth Maul, of course.
Yeah. No, he's like, and then there's always that question. I don't know if I read this somewhere or I was watching the movie and I thought of it. It's like, how long was Darth Maul hanging out behind that door before it opened? Like, right? Like he was like, because like he's standing there, he has his whole move, but he couldn't have just gotten there. Like he was just like, okay, I'm gonna wait behind this door. And I'll look up at him. You know, maybe I'll wink. No, I won't wink. I'll just open my eyes. And like he had he's like, then I'll put out the lightsaber and I'll do one at a time and then the other one, like slightly less, just to be more dramatic. It's like he's the first Sith that showed us that they can go to theater camp too. You know, like
he's like, ta-da!
But he's like, here's my moment, like because he doesn't ever say anything. But I think I agree. I agree that he is one of the more striking characters. Mm-hmm. And I think he also, like in the Clone Wars show and stuff, like the TV show.
He becomes so great in the Clone Wars show.
He's so good. And they were talking about, I was reading some article about how they make him more menacing by putting reflections on his eyes, on the top and bottom of his eyes, if he's trying to be more like evil, which is interesting. And I thought it was pretty cool. But I will say, I think the greatest thing that has ever come out of this movie, the best part of this movie, and the best thing it's done to this world is give us that pod racing video game in the arcades. That's like the funnest.
I've never played that. Game. Is that good?
Oh, it's the best. You're in Anakin's pod. You can choose like different ones, but you have the controls and it's all based on how you move. It's awesome. It's the best. It's my all-time favorite arcade game.
Okay. I gotta play that. How was that? How did you get the N64 version? I know you can get that now on the Switch or PlayStation.
Yeah, I had that back when I had an N64. It was great.
Is that a good game?
That's a good game. It's super fun. It's like it made like if any like people that had problems with the pod racing things, like they clearly wanted to play and be in a pod race. Essentially it's Mario Kart. It's like what it is, right? But it's like
hardcore Mario Kart.
Yeah, it's hardcore. It's very serious Mario. There's no bananas. Like no one's slipping on bananas in the pod race.
It's on the Switch and also on PlayStation 4. And I've always wanted to grab it, and I think I will grab it. Yeah, and I would love to see pod racing come back in some of this new stuff. Like, why not? Like, you know, especially now they're on Tatooine every 3 seconds.
Well, why didn't we get that in that casino planet? Why was it horse racing? Why wasn't it pod racing?
Yeah, or how come Boba on the show now, the Book of Boba Fett? How come he's not doing illegal pod racing?
I watched the first episode. I have to catch up on the new episodes that I've heard. It does not.
I heard it's very boring. I haven't watched it.
Yeah.
At all.
I liked the first one. He just kind of walked around to be like, oh, I'm going to walk around to the different places instead of take a transport of any kind because I'm not the slowest person in the world.
Yeah, I didn't see any episodes yet. I'm going to watch it. I do agree with people who are like, enough of Tatooine on Star Wars. I do agree. This is supposed to be the planet where nothing happens, but apparently everything. It's like because you're in New York City.
It's the crux of every story in this whole thing, and like even like in the new ones, like where they're like, what's the it's like Django or whatever. That's
a desert planet too.
Yeah, why aren't we on that instead of Tatooine?
And then there's another desert planet in Solo. When they have the final battle with Woody Harrelson, that's a desert planet.
Oh yeah.
And then there's a desert planet in Rise of Skywalker.
Just so many climates, just like There's so many climates that he could have done, and like I don't know. Yeah, I feel like the new movies you just get kind of the same planets. We're not really going to new places. Like I like that. Like later in the prequels, we get to go to Kashyyyk and we get to see that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Because the only time we've been on Kashyyyk is the holiday special, where they just prove that Chewbacca's a bad father. Like,
Oh yeah, the holiday. I reviewed that with Chris Murphy. That is a rough thing to rewatch. Yeah,
it's hard, and I understand why George Lucas tried to find every copy that was ever made and get rid of it.
But you know what? I would just say to him, how do you think this is unwatchable, but you were cool with Jar Jar Binks? Like, how do you? I just picture him directing the actor and like, can you be more annoying? Can you really? I need you to up the. No, screechier. Yes, that's it. Perfect. You're a genius. Also, before we get out of here, though, I do want to talk about Jake Lloyd, the actor who played Anakin. This movie essentially ruined his life. And I don't blame him. I blame Lucas. I blame the casting director. This kid was terrible. He never should have been put in this position. But also, like, he should have realized the yippies and all that stuff. Like, people act like he decided to say yippee. I get, like he was.
Yeah, I think it's more. I think it's crazy that the public was like that shameful on the kid, not knowing it's like he wasn't the guy who was like, yeah, I wrote this whole it'd be different if the kid, like, honestly, Jar Jar Binks would make more sense if the kid wrote it. Like that would make more sense. But like it wasn't like he was in the writer's room be like, yeah, I'm gonna say yippee right now. I'm gonna act like a little bitch the whole time. Like it's like the whole thing is like that kid did not choose that at all. He got the part, but like it just that's the downside of fandom right there. Is that like they just go ahead and shame little kids for something because they're mad they didn't go the way that they wanted it to go.
Have you seen him, by the way? Have you seen like his mugshot?
No.
Go look up his. Yeah, he got arrested. Dude, he looks like a guy who's about to turn into Darth Vader. Like, if you told me, like, if you went back in time and said, oh no, this is what he looks like in episode 3, I'd be like, wow, they cast the perfect kid. Because he just looks. You found it?
Oh, I found it. Yeah.
Doesn't he look?
He looks like he should look like he should be on Breaking Bad, selling meth to someone. Jake
Lloyd mugshot. Yeah, I'm gonna look it up too. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, that he finally nailed Darth Vader.
Honestly, I was gonna say that would have been a cool like a younger version. That would have been fun to watch. Be again like a slightly older version would be cool.
I think they should bring him back as like a Sith because he has a Sith look now.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, and like let him redeem himself.
Yeah,
I think they should. I think they should bring Jar Jar Binks back and just murder him. I think that would get a standing ovation.
He's just like, it's one scene where someone just shoves a lightsaber through Darth Vader, or like he just falls into an endless pit.
Yeah,
because I don't. Yeah, that's was it because that's
by the way, J.J. Abrams pitched on Ray's Planet a Gungan skull would just be in the desert. And
hilarious.
LucasArts was like, absolutely not. Lucasfilm, whatever. Like, no. I'm like, okay. That would have been amazing.
That would have been amazing. Like, there's a Robot Chicken thing where like Jar Jar realizes that Darth Vader is Anakin, and he's
I've seen that sketch. Yeah,
and then he kills him, right? And then he's like, oh, I'm all cool, yay! Like he just like Darth Vader's like, no, why do you have to keep coming back?
Yeah, did he come back as a Force ghost?
Yeah, and he's like, oh, I'm all blue, it's googly, woo! I will say, I do enjoy in the Mandalorian that we got Bill Burr did a Gungan impression, as in like. As kind of a racial slur type thing.
Oh, he does. I gotta rewatch.
There's a whole point where he calls him like he's like maybe he's a Gungan under there or something, and then he's like, and he does like a fake. He does like an impression of it. It's really funny.
Bill Burr doing. By the way, I want to see Bill Burr's. I forget what his character's name, but I want to see Bill Burr's home planet where everyone has a Boston accent in Star Wars universe. Hey, these fucking Gungans over here, you know.
Oh, they're all fucking over here, man. Like, oh, that's amazing. I would love to see that. That would be.
I would love to see the Boston planet. Drew, thank you so much for doing this podcast with me. Where can people find you on social media and stuff?
So I am DRU Comedy on Instagram, Twitter, and all that stuff. And if you want to check out my show, Big Wave Comedy on Tuesdays, you can find it on Eventbrite. We have next show is February 1st. Thanks for having me on the podcast. This was super fun.
Thanks for doing it. And guys, if you like this show, please subscribe. We've done every Star Wars films, all the 80s and 70s Star Wars films. And next week is Attack of the Clones. We've also done all the Spider-Man movies, the Disney animated films. A lot of stuff to go through in the archives. Every week's a different comedian. Please subscribe. Follow me, Ray Gootz, on Twitter and Instagram, and follow the podcast on Instagram. Gootz is Disney Pod. Drew, thank you so much for being part of the show. I'll see you around.
Yeah, see you later, everybody.